And welcome back, you guys, to another great edition of this podcast that is called The Hit. I am your man, Logan Graffia, and he is my good friend, Calvin Rons. And we are just going to get right into it with what's hot around the water cooler these days, and that is Pelicans Summer League. And Calvin, a couple nights ago, or even, yeah, a couple nights ago, Pelicans played the Lakers in Summer League. We was all excited about it because it's Pelicans and Lakers. We kind of take that seriously now. Both fan bases go at each other quite aggressively on social medias. You and I both kind of participate in the scuffle, in social media scuffles, in a manner of speaking. And I was pleasantly surprised or unpleasantly surprised that we got our tails whooped by the Lakers in the Summer League, considering that we look like to be the better team. It's just I think the injury bug is hitting us in Summer League. All three of our draft picks are out. Then Plowden got hurt, and then Jared Harper got hurt towards the end of the game when we had gotten it to single digits. And but there were some points of the game where it got to be single digit deficits, but I think the problem was the Pelicans shot themselves in the foot early and got down by a lot and couldn't just climb out the hole. Now, this was regular season. I can see us climbing out of that hole, but for Summer League, these guys just didn't look like they had it the night they played the Lakers. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought of the game.
Well, let me just start by saying I'm actually low key glad we lost, and I say that because like this whole Lakers versus Pelicans, it's a toxic thing. They're gonna sit here and they're gonna enjoy the summer league. I already seen it. They're gonna sit here and they've been saying, "Oh, this is revenge for what y'all did to knock us in the playoffs." Like, all right, shut up. No, it's not. I mean, come on. We're gonna quantify a summer league game over getting knocked out in the playoffs. Yeah, I don't think so. So if we would have won this, they would have been all, "Oh, y'all really tripping about a win. Oh, that's why we won a championship." Like they just gonna say that. So we're gonna be in the wrong either way. So it really doesn't matter. I kind of already knew we were gonna lose because this is the second year in a row where we only needed to like beat a team by like 5 points to go to the championship, and we just didn't. Happens every year. So I wasn't surprised
Every
at
year.
all. I kind of knew it was gonna happen. I mean, once you had Dyson Daniels, Carl McTavish, Trey Murphy wasn't playing, Daquan Plowden went down the game before that. I already kind of knew writing was on the wall for us because honestly, I haven't seen enough out of John Petty to say he could carry the team. Jared Harper was carrying the team like he would usually do. Sebron, God, I mean, I'm just really disappointed in him considering he was our other two-way. I expected him to be putting up like Jared Harper numbers. So I don't know that Davidis Siravidis guy. I hope I say his name right. He came on for these last two games. The first two games he was kind of non-existent, but he really came up with more minutes given to him. So I mean, it's really interesting because you got guys like John Petty, Jared Harper, Severus, however you say his name.
Servetus.
Yeah,
Servetus.
Servetus. And Plowden showed me something in the third game. Like he was a spark. So it's like we don't have room for all those guys,
We
and
don't.
that's the sad part. As much as I want to see all the guys on the team, I understand this is not how it's gonna work. Um, so I mean, for me, the question would be: now that we've seen a complete summer league game, would you say, all right, let's get rid of Sebron and potentially give it to one of the other guys? And I already know Jared Harper is going to be one of you guys. So who would be that last guy for the two way?
Well, of course, I mean, you already said one of them, Jared Harper, and I'm always telling you, dude, I really see Nate Robinson in this guy. I don't know if anyone else sees it, but I see New York Knicks, Nate Robinson, like the early days. So Jared Harper, of course, would be one. And Sebron showed spurts. He has shown spurts in these last two games when he's gotten in. You've seen what he did in college, and he's kind of doing a little bit of that now, driving to the hoop, taking on contact, even though it's a little bit more contact than there should be. Anyway, but I'd still give it to John Petty. I know he's been having rough shooting stretches, but he's still been able to knock down the three ball. But I also think, well, I mean, because they're two way, they're still going to be on the Birmingham squadron. So it's good to have our own G League team. because we can call them up at will if we wanted to. Even if they're not on two-way, a G League player can still get signed. So to answer your question, of course, Jared Harper would be one. And the last one, I give it to John Petty. I know we have Sebron on a two-way, but I would give it to John Petty Jr. because you can never have no shooting in this league.
Now, I have another question that goes into that. Who would be your biggest disappointment and biggest surprise on this team for Summer League?
My biggest disappointment is probably, John Butler. We didn't get to see a whole lot of him, and then he showed flashes. He had a couple nice blocks, but it's just I didn't see what I thought I would from the guy that I saw just knocking down shots at Florida State for someone who's 7 feet tall. So John Butler would be one. And then, I'm also a tad disappointed in Sebron too, because I remember after the draft, you and I were messaging back and forth, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got Sebron. He was a almost 18 to 20 point per game scorer in college. Oh my goodness. And then he showed flashes, but just disappointed.
So, who would be your biggest surprise outside of Jared Harper?
My biggest surprise is actually Plowden. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he went to Bowling Green, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But when I was watching this tape, he showed me a little bit. I'm like, okay, maybe this guy will be something. And then the first 2 games, it was almost like he had did not play a DNP. But he came on, and then when he went out the last game against the Lakers, it was just like, well, we kind of don't really have too much left. So my biggest surprise, in a good way, was definitely Plowden.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Matkovic, he kind of surprised me a little bit. I just kind of expected him to be like a DD. We're just gonna throw him, stash him for a year or two, whatever, and he'll come on the team and just not really be anything. But he showed a little bit more than DD ever showed me. And yeah, John Butler, I would definitely have to put as a disappointment. The dude's 7 feet tall. He was 0 for 3 for 3-point against the Lakers, and that's something that he's supposed to be good at. So, I don't think he scored over 10 points this entire summer league. He got 20 minutes. 20 minutes isn't bad at all. So I really expected him to be. I'm not gonna say I want him to be like a Chet, but you're 7 feet tall. You already have an advantage over everybody. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was just it was an up and down summer league. And what overall, someone asked me what I thought of it. I'm like, well, it was interesting, and also everybody got hurt.
Yeah, everybody got hurt.
That is literally what happened. It was interesting, and everybody got hurt.
Everybody got hurt, and Najee Marshall played way more than he should have played.
Yeah, I don't
even know. I'll put him as my disappointment for summer league. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
We can do that. But moving on to our next topic, of course, the Saints. It's the dead period, but in a few days, training camp starts. That's when the pads come on and everything is on the table. No one's job is safe. And I can honestly say no one's job is safe in training camp. You can have guys that's been there for 5 years, a 5-year starter there, and they can get beat out by someone who just got drafted or is an undrafted free agent. And that really excites me because I love this time of year because we all see the training camp footage that gets put on social media and everything, and we're all like, oh wow, this is exciting. Look at this player. I even heard of him. Oh, look at this guy. I can't believe a 5-year star is letting a rookie beat him, this and that. So my question to you is, who is one player going into training camp that you think could be a breakout candidate for this season and onward?
Well, I know you're gonna love this one because I always give you flack for it, but I don't give you flack for it because I don't like the guy. It's just your comparison or whatever for him. Abram Smith has to be the obvious choice here. Our running back position right now is kind of in a weird spot. I remember, the 2010s. The Saints always had fantastic. We always had 4 or 5 just fantastic running backs. Where at any given point, any of them can give you 100 yards if you really needed it.
Oh,
and since the 2017, 2018 days of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. I just don't feel like we had that. Latavius Murray was pretty solid. I really did like Latavius. I just think Sean Payton underutilized him. He definitely should have been the third down back more than Kamara. But Mark's get a little older. Don't know how much more he has left in the tank. He did show he had stuff in the tank last season. With the inevitable suspension of Kamara looming, Tony Jones last year just didn't show what he usually would show in like preseason. And then he gets hurt, and then he comes back and he gets hurt again. So I'm like, all right, maybe he's not the one. Dwayne Washington, I love this guy. Like when we signed him back in 2017, 2018. I've seen him in preseason. He was breaking all these tackles. He's an aggressive runner. He's fast. Hits the hole extremely fast. So I was like, all right, he's gonna be cool. He hasn't really shown me that in about a year, and I know he's valuable on special teams. So maybe his spot may be secured because of that. But Abram Smith, if he could come in and give me that 95% grade that he got on PFF or whatever it was, one of the highest rated running backs in all of college football, I mean, I think he could be here. I mean, spots there. Kamara is going to be suspended most likely. Mark Ingram, I don't want Mark Ingram being the one back for the entire game. So we're going to have to play someone else. And if it came down to it, I think I'd rather Abram Smith right now than Tony Jones. But that's not to say Tony Jones is bad. Just if he doesn't show me what I know he could do and what we know he could do, then he's going to have to go.
Well, I mean, I can't not agree with you because as well as I know and everyone else knows that Abram Smith has been my guy from the jump. I mean, I've been telling people about him, even off of social media, about Abram Smith since the Sugar Bowl when they played Ole Miss in the Dome this year. I just remember the first time I saw Abram running, and I was just like, wow, this guy reminds me of Pierre. No one else sees it, but he really just kind of reminds me of Pierre. Almost an old school back in a sense. And I mean, you know how much I love the old school like style running backs, but Abram Smith is definitely a guy, and I'm not going to repeat all the things that you say because I mean you're exactly right. Everything that you said about Abram in the running back room, I mean he's definitely an intriguing candidate. And another one for me that it's just very intriguing is Dai'Jean Dixon. I mean, I know we have a deep wide receiving room now with now Michael Thomas coming back, Jarvis Landry, now Chris Olave, but and even Deontay Hardy, I'll even give him, and also Marquez Callaway. It's
That's the
deep.
five right there.
It's deep, but
and Traquan. So
I don't. But I got. There's only three guys I can say that their jobs are safe, and that's Michael Thomas, Olave, and Jarvis Landry. I think all the spots after that, from wide receiver 4 on down, are up for grabs. And I absolutely love Deontay Hardy. I do. The guy is just such a quick and shifty guy. He's very valuable on special teams in the return game, but you can always use a fourth guy who can be a number one guy. And we was definitely kind of lacking that last year. Callaway tried and he did his best. And I give Callaway all the credit in the world. He did his thing, but he is not a wide receiver 1. But Dai'Jean Dixon, just what I saw in person, because when I was at Southeastern, I got to see this man play in person against my school and absolutely destroy our defense. We had just no answers for the guy. He broke school records. He broke Mark Carrier's school records. And that's saying a lot because no one has done that since Mark Carrier was there. So I think Dai'Jean Dixon is definitely an interesting candidate. And I honestly am more excited for preseason than I am regular season because I want to see how these young guys look. So training camp will definitely be interesting.
With Dai'Jean, he's definitely interesting. I have also seen him play in person. My cousin was the linebacker in Nichols, so I would go to the games. And the one game I remember was McNeese versus Nichols. Dai'Jean, I guess, was hurt, for like the year before or whatever. This was like his first game back in a while. I basically kind of knew all the players already. So I've been to so many games. And this guy just puts up like 200 yards and like 2-3 touchdowns on like 11 catches. I'm like, who's this guy? Like, I want to know who this guy is. And it turns out there's Dai'Jean. I was like, all right, cool, keep eye on him. And then like I haven't really heard much about him. And all of a sudden he's on the team. And I'm like, okay. And I don't know how much you love the guy. I just think that his position hurts him more than anything, just because of, if this was last year's wide receiver and the year before that, yeah, he's taking Tommy Lee Lewis's spot. He's taking Lil Jordan Humphrey's spot, like, easy. But now it's a tough receiver room now. And, Traquan, could you say he could take a spot? Yeah, sure, but that'll put you at like maybe 4 or 5 or 6. Because I think Hardy's a lock at the 4 spot. I just do, because Callaway, he doesn't have a burner on him like Hardy. So, and he's not as good in the return game. So I think the 4 spot is definitely going to Hardy, and then 5 and 6 is up for grabs. And 5 and 6, you're kind of not really playing unless someone's getting hurt or in special packages. So that'll be interesting to see. I'm also excited for preseason as well. Dixon, yeah, I agree. He also could be a guy.
I remember this is one of my hot takes, and then we can move on to the next topic. One of my hot takes, I told people on Twitter and got called crazy by a few, and some agreed, but I think Dai'Jean can take Traquan's spot. That is just my opinion.
I think I can take Traquan's spot.
I'm not going to say I can. I mean, I'm not over 6 feet tall. So moving on, college football is vastly approaching in the next month. And one of the topics right now, before we get into talk about LSU, is conference realignment. We're starting to see.
Boy.
Yeah, it's a hot topic of discussion around the water cooler, Calvin. I don't know if you heard, but
boy.
Many teams are just moved. It seems like it's going to be 2 conferences at some point. It's either going to be the SEC and Big Ten, or it's just going to be the SEC and the ACC. It just seems like everyone's just moving to one conference, and it's just going to be 2 super groups. It's almost going to be like DC versus Marvel at some point. So, because we're going to be seeing Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, which I think is going to be bad for them. And then we're going to see USC and UCLA moving to the Big Ten out of the Pac-12, which leaves the Pac-12 now back to the Pac-10. They were originally the Pac-10 before there was the Pac-12, and I just think it's not going to be a good look for college football if it's just 2 mega conferences. It just seems like in the end, there's not going to be a need for conferences if everyone's just going to the same spot. And I wanted to get your take on that.
So now, when I was on my little vacation, whatever, in Missouri, obviously I don't have WWL 870 to listen to. I don't have Bobby Hebert and Katie Cannon to listen to. So I'm listening to the radio, and that's when I figured out about this whole Pac-12 stuff, because that was like the big talk. And other than the Pelicans, which I'm surprised that Missouri and Kansas radio stations talking about so much, but the Pac-12, they're talking about that a lot, and it's a money thing, man. The Pac-12, their revenue is just not even close to what the Big Ten can offer, and I mean, it's starting to seem like teams are not caring about the traveling involved, because let's think about it like this. If you go to the Big Ten, you just, let's say you're getting $50 million. You think you're worried about chartering a plane when you just got $50 million? No, you're not. It doesn't really matter. I'm sure the players love it because, coming from me, an athlete, I love it when we travel to different places, far away places. I mean, that's what we like. We like waking up in a new environment. It's cool. And people will say, oh, the time zone, that really doesn't really mean as much as people think it does. I mean, elevation means more to me than it does the time zone. And I do think that at some point we are going to end up with super conferences, because the SEC is basically an untouchable conference. It just is. It never will be beaten. But the thing with the Pac-12 to me is now a dead conference, because USC and UCLA were the cash cows, along with Oregon. Now, Oregon and Washington are not just going to sit there and say, okay, because I would argue that Oregon is a more successful team recently than USC, for sure.
I agree.
and so is Washington. Low key, if you really want to think about it. So those two teams are looking and probably saying, all right, well, we're going to leave too. Because if UCLA is leaving, what has UCLA done? Like, if they're leaving too, like, nah, we're not going to be here alone. We're going to leave. So, I mean, the teams to look at for the Pac-12 to leave would be Arizona, Arizona State, Oregon, Washington, Utah, Colorado. Like, maybe not Colorado, but I could definitely see the two Arizonas leaving. Oregon for sure, to me, is out. And Washington's for sure out. Because Oregon and Washington do need to be somewhere else at this point. So the Pac-12 to me, I play in the Conference USA. And as we all know, Conference USA got absolutely gutted by the Sun Belt. So to me, also the Conference USA is going to be one of these, like kind of like the Pac-12, where it's just going to be a gutted, low-end feeder conference where just lower schools come in, move up from D2, whatever. Yeah, man, Pac-12, I don't think in about 5 years, I see the Pac-12 just being completely disbanded. I just can. Teams aren't really holding themselves to the contracts anymore. They're just kind of getting up one day and saying, you know what, we're out. We're not going to be here. We don't care about the contract. We're going to have the money to pay for whatever we need to pay for. So it's an intriguing world, new world in college football.
Oh, most definitely.
And all that. It's like it's free agency for everybody now. And NIL deals are part of the reason for this. I mean, teams need money to get guys. If they could recruit a guy and say, hey, we're going to give you $1 million NIL deal. I mean, hell, why wouldn't you show up to that school either? Can't do that if you ain't got no money because the TV deal sucks. So, yeah.
Well, it's definitely interesting. It's almost like playing NCAA football back in the day. You can move whatever school to whatever conference. I mean, I can remember playing NCAA 13 and moving the Raging Cajuns to the SEC. You just don't know. You could probably move Navy to the SEC if you wanted to at this point.
Man, I moved Akron to the SEC. Yeah, I started with Akron. I moved the Zip to the SEC.
It's an interesting time in college football. And, of course, while we're on the topic of college football, LSU football, just the amount of players that they've gotten in the transfer portal and signees, commitments, and state commitments at that. Brian Kelly is definitely building himself a team, and I like the staff that he built. With less than a minute that we have left, or even a little bit over a minute that we have left, what is your record prediction for LSU this year?
0-12.
Okay, your unbiased Louisiana Tech football player opinion.
I think they'll win about 7-8 games. They'll be better than last year.
I think people call me crazy for this, but I said I can see them being 10-2 or 9-3. I can see them winning double digits because Brian Kelly is a winner. He's a winning coach. I know people just think, oh, he was at Notre Dame. He didn't win anything at Notre Dame. Well, I don't think anyone at Notre Dame is going to beat Alabama. I mean, Ian Book and that gang tried, but it's Alabama. It's a different ball game. And plus, he's Brian Kelly. He's gotten a lot of top guys to come play for LSU. It's LSU. It's the SEC. It's the big man Majama. I truly think that LSU can win 9 to 10 games this year, and they can sneak. I can see them being in the top 10 rankings this year too, as well.
You know what? I was being a little mean. 7-8, or 7 or 8 wins. I'm being a little mean. I'll give them 9. I was being a little mean.
I truly believe they could be a quietly great team. I really, really do. Because, like I said, Brian Kelly is getting all this insanely great talent.
Well, hey, I'm gonna give some of that credit. I don't remember if Frank Wilson's still there. Frank Wilson's like a goated recruiter.
We hired Frank Wilson back this. Yeah. I mean, LSU hired Frank Wilson back this past offseason when Brian Kelly came back.
A guy you probably don't know, but he worked at Tech.
Oh no, I know who you're gonna say.
Sherm. Yeah, Sherm.
Oh no,
Sherman. Can't remember his name. I think it's Sherman Wilson, but Sherm, he's there. Who's a lot of Tech guy you thinking of? Because Sherman's there recruiting.
I was thinking of Joe Sloan, the quarterback's coach.
Oh yeah. Coach Sloan is there. Yeah. I'll be forgetting that all of our coaches, went on and the different things. Sherman's there. He's a crazy recruiter, also. So you got Frank and Sherman. I mean, you got guys that's for the culture. I mean, you're gonna
Now,
get some guys.
30 seconds. The quarterback battle for LSU. I don't know if you've been paying attention to it. Nussmeier, Daniels, or Brennan? Who you got?
Daniels.
I love Daniels, but I'm going to give it to Miles Brennan. And with that, folks, we are out of time, which means we got to go. We will see you next time. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, share the link everywhere on all your social media pages. Just show love to the show any way you can. So with that being said, I am Logan Graffia. He is the great Calvin Rons. We shall see you next time on another edition of The Hit.